just want to say thank you, everybody. Thank you for joining. And this is such an important topic we're talking about today. The title, this is the film director, the producer, the everything. And he's the one that's actually created this thought-provoking documentary. And it's called Road to Vrindavan. And we're going to be talking about that. And whilst we're talking about it, I want to make this interactive. I want everybody to give your questions and just ask whatever you want, because this is an open forum. I know we've got a lot of people from India coming joining us. We've got people from around the world. I can already see. So, Ravi, I'm so grateful that you're here today. And we're going over 100 joining already, and it's only been less than 30 seconds. So really appreciate that. So Ravi, our Brummy boy who's coming, well, actually from Ireland. Yeah. You know, your story is phenomenal. And I just want to, first of all, congratulate you on such a thought-provoking, inspiring documentary you made called Road to Vrindavan. And I'm looking forward to talking to you about that. So, you know, one thing I would just like everyone to know, I've known Ravi for many years, and he is an inspiring film director. He teaches everybody how to even make films. And so he's took it to himself and made this amazing documentary, which I just hope goes viral and goes all over the world. So please do share it. We're going to be putting on, and just for everybody's information, www.roadtovrindavan.com. Check it out. So welcome, Ravi. How are you today?
Very much. Pleasure to be with you. Yeah, I'm great, thank you. The documentary went live for the first day yesterday until the end of the day on Monday. So it's a long weekend here in England for anyone who's in England. It's Easter, and so lots and lots of people are starting to watch it and send us messages. So it's been a busy time, but it's been a very enlivening time.
So I just want to ask you, Ravi, you know, just about your background. Before we go into the documentary itself, what about yourself? Like, I heard that, you know, 20 years ago you used to be a monk as well.
Yes. So in 1993, actually, now it's more than 20 years ago. Oh, wow. So nearly 28 years ago. Can you imagine that? That is shocking, isn't it? We're all getting old, you know. Yes, I was about 20 years old, and I grew up in Dublin in Ireland, which is sort of across the sea from England. And I'd always been interested in spiritual things as from a very young boy, when I even was 9 or 8 or 9. But I didn't have much spiritual knowledge as such, but I had a lot of questions, you know, had a lot of real yearning to understand where we are, why we're here, what's it about, you know, which I think everybody has at some point in their life. It's just whether those questions stick or whether they just then drift away. And for me, throughout my teens, they tended to stick. And again and again, I would be asking those questions. And towards my later teens, I was lucky enough, I met some Hare Krishna people when I was 15.
Oh.
I went to the temple in Dublin. My friend invited me. And but I had a bit of a mishap on the way to meet him. Some punk rockers, I don't know if your audience will know. So they sort of attacked me on the way. So I got beaten up on the way to the temple. So when I was there, I wasn't really concentrating properly. So I enjoyed the prasadam, the food, but I didn't take much in. But I remembered a little bit about the kirtan and the music and the philosophy. But about 6 years later, I was in San Francisco in America. And with the same friend, believe it or not. And we got flyers in the street to go to the Rath Yatra, you know, the Festival of Chariots. And we ended up at Golden Gate Park, which is a famous park in San Francisco. And we went and enjoyed the kirtans and dramas and again, vegetarian food. And this time I spoke to the devotees at the book table. And they were, because I'd already got interested in things like Gnostic anthropology, and I'd heard about yoga and reincarnation and karma and stuff, but I hadn't come across Krishna consciousness. Or I had, but I'd sort of been quite a long time before. So you know how it is when they say a little knowledge is a dangerous thing. So I knew a little bit, but I didn't know a lot, but I thought I knew a lot, you know. So I had some chats with the devotees, and then I came back to Ireland, and I met a friend of mine who was a musician in a band, and he said, "Oh, you should come to the temple in Dublin on Sunday, because as many of your guests, I'm sure, are very familiar, in all of the Hare Krishna temples around the world, on a Sunday there's the feast where people can come." And
Yes.
that's when I met a kind of a mentor, a senior monk, who just really inspired me in a tremendous way. And that was Tribhuvanath
Yes.
Prabhu, and he was a student of Srila Prabhupada, and a very dynamic person. You know, he used to put on cultural festivals for the public around England and Ireland at that time, and later we did it in Africa as well. And I just was very attracted. The way he explained the philosophy was very practical and down to earth, and you know, you could understand it by what the world that you see around you. But I wouldn't have joined the temple, if I'm honest. There's no way I would have joined it. I wanted to be an armchair philosopher. I wanted to be a philosopher that, yeah. And then one day he said to me, "You could have." He said, "Oh, I've been traveling and I've been doing this and that," and I was like, "Oh wow!" And then he said, "You could have come with me." And then a light bulb went on in my head, and I thought, "Wow, that would be so amazing to travel with him." And so then I did, and then for 7 years I was a monk, pretty much
Wow.
by his side, just helping him for that time. Yeah.
So now, fast forward, 20 odd years, and you know yourself, you're in the UK. You, of course, from Vrindavan, you got Ireland, like you talked about Dublin, Tribhuvanath Prabhu, who was such an inspiration to yourself in your spiritual life, and then you ended up in Birmingham.
We came to Birmingham. We came to Birmingham in 1996 because at that time the Birmingham Temple was going to close for various reasons, and we set up the festival program as a base there. And for a couple of years we stayed there, and then obviously later the temple went on to strengths, you know, with the local community. But yeah, somehow or other I ended up in England, and I always joke and I say, I'm not sure how I ended up in Birmingham, but that's I did.
Oh, really? Is that what you say?
I don't know if I'm very honest. I'm not sure I would have chosen it, but it chose me. So I'm happy to be here.
So now, like of course, you're married. You're married to Tina, and you have two beautiful boys, and who are growing up very quick. I was just looking. It's it's been so long since we saw, and now it's coming into that stage. Of course, you've one thing I really admire about you, Ravi, is you're very, you question things, and and it's really good that you just don't go with the status quo. And here is something that came about where, you did a tuk-tuk challenge, and I've had a few friends that did the tuk-tuk challenge, but I wish none of them have got inspired to make a documentary. Maybe it's your background. So can I just ask, how did the tuk-tuk and this amazing documentary come out? How did the two gel together? How did that come about first?
So when I moved out of the temple, as we kind of say, and started to move into the world of work, I did different things. I did some time in property. I did some time in managing youth projects. I went back to university. I did a first degree in psychology. I went back to university and did an MBA, which is a business master's. And then I was wondering what to do. And I actually made a film in East Africa when I was a monk. And then I made another film when I was working with the youth programs. And so I thought I'll start a film company that is tells stories about helping, benefiting social issues. And that's my business, essentially. That's how I earn my livelihood. And that's been very successful. So in 2016, I got a phone call actually from a friend who's Ravin Jagannatha, who is also affiliated with the Hare Krishna movement. And he said to me, I'm organizing this tuk-tuk challenge. It's going to be from Mumbai all the way down the west coast of India, 1,800 kilometers, driving these tuk-tuks. Would you like to come and do it? And I love traveling. I love adventure. I love India. So I said, yeah, I'd love to do it. And he said, well, the reason we're doing it is we're raising awareness and money for this school in Vrindavan, Sandipani Muni School that Rupa Raghunath runs. and we'll raise some money at the same time. And I thought, great, that sounds fantastic. Because, as you say, I have a film background, I thought, you know what, this could be a really interesting film. Not only because of the adventure and the seeing India as we travel, but as someone who doesn't live in India, I wanted to understand this issue, because the reason it's a girls' school is because in many parts of India, there are various reasons which are shown in the film that girls don't often get access to education as much as boys, or if they do, they don't stay in education. And so I thought, well, instead of trying to understand that from what you maybe read in the headlines or in the newspapers, why don't we actually speak to people in India from their own, hear from them, and let's hear what they have to say about it. And that was the idea behind the initial trip. And as if you get to watch the film, that trip happens and we come back, and then there's a twist. Something happens that forces me to go deeper and look at the whole issue from a different perspective, which I think was a blessing. At the time when so somebody criticized me saying, why are you doing this as a man? So obviously in their head, they're presuming this is a woman's issue. And at the time when they did that, naturally when you get a criticism, you feel a bit knocked back. But I thought about it carefully, and I spoke to people all around the world who are working in this area. And I realized that actually that is such an important point. If it's a woman's issue, then we'll never solve it, because there's not only women in the world, there's men and women. We all live in families, communities. We must look at these issues together. They're societal issues. And otherwise, how can we possibly solve them? So I went back and we looked at projects that work with boys and just think about what is the mindset that maybe has been holding girls back, and also where does it come from, and also the tension between tradition and progress. I know people are very scared of progress because they feel that it might lose tradition, but at the same time you have to look at tradition. Like you mentioned earlier, I'm not afraid to ask questions. You must always, it's like if you have a pair of shoes, if they start to get holes in them, you need to think about maybe you need a new pair of shoes. It's just because they're old and you've had them for a long time. It's not, you know what I mean? So, and the main thing is what are a pair of shoes meant to do? They're meant to keep your feet dry, warm, etc., etc. So if they're no longer doing that job, then it is an intelligent thing to do to think about maybe getting a pair that can keep you dry and warm, etc. So, but then there is a tension between, it's not about like leaving everything behind. There's obviously incredible wisdom and that's there in the tradition, but every so often it needs a good looking at again to reassess. Is it doing what it set out to do, or is it actually potentially hurting people in the name of tradition?
Thank you so much. And I just want to say, this film, like, when I watched it, I was just like really taken back, really nicely put together. Ravi, you definitely are fantastic at what you do. You're a craftsman, and you put it up really nicely in very good quality. I could see this on the BBC, all the channels. It's just done so well. And like even Malala, she's quoted, "This film shows us the urgency for equality and education right now," which was also very touching. But I want to go into now. There's one thing you mentioned at the start. You're getting people asking you, why you as a man was doing this. I've got a deeper one. I had some comments coming through, and one was not just that why you're a man, but why is a Irish man,
a white man,
a white man.
They're saying.
why is a white man talking about something that is of Indian culture that he is maybe alien to him, and how can he talk about it in a way that is what's the word?
Authentic,
yes.
It's a very good question, but perhaps that person doesn't know me or my circumstances. So for example, as I mentioned earlier, as a 20-year-old man, I took up the practice of Krishna consciousness, which means that I studied the Vedic and ancient Indian culture as presented in the scriptures, like incredibly deeply. Like I dedicated my life to it every breathing moment for like 7 years. And so I understand it as well as I think anybody can. And then as you mentioned earlier, I married Tina, who's from an Indian family, and so many of the people that I mix with are Indian people. So it's a very good question on the face of it, but actually, even though I was born and I look like I look, I'm actually very well versed and interested and immersed in the culture. And I think anybody who watches the film, and I was very sensitive to that point, because of course nobody wants, who the hell does this person think they are coming in and saying something. There's no blaming in the film. It's not about trying to say that this is bad or this is bad. I'm simply presenting real life examples, and they're telling their own stories. And I've been very careful in the film not to try to give any answers, really. I've asked a lot of questions, and I've allowed different characters to share their stories. And then I think that the audience is intelligent. They can make their own mind up. They can decide what they want to think about something. I'm certainly not going to tell them what they should think about it. Yeah.
And then another question that came up was regarding, also about the class aspect. You're well-to-do from the UK. Putting ourselves in the shoes of somebody, like, especially because you're focusing on the villages of the rural India mainly. And, of course, there's that aspect of, okay, this is what's happening. It's a poor family, and especially in the case of one of the person. She's got, there's four daughters.
That was Rashmi. Sorry,
Rashmi. With Rashmi and her father, when you were speaking to him, how did you feel? Like, did you understand where he might be coming from?
Completely, yeah, absolutely. So it's a really interesting point. So we did actually speak to some incredibly wealthy and what would be called middle class or middle class people as well. We weren't able to put everything in the film, but the interesting thing is that a lot of people. So I've had obviously an overwhelmingly good response to the film, but I've had the odd, particularly Indian people who feel, I think, a little defensive, like as if we're criticizing India. I don't think that we are. I mean, because there's no critical intent. A documentary is really just saying, here is what the situation is. So it is what it is, and we can be defensive about it or not. That's an individual's choice. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. And I think the thing is that what's fascinating is it's easy to say that it's a poverty thing. Poverty is definitely one of the reasons. So in the case of Rashmi's father, I totally understand where he's coming from, and we let him tell his own story on screen. So you could see where he was coming from. He's not a bad man. He is just a man in a particular environment, in a culture where he wanted to marry his 4 daughters together because he's not rich, and it would be easier for him to do that and more affordable for him to do that. But 2 of them were like 12 and 14 years old. And the other ones were, and the thing is that by law, even in India, he's not allowed to do that. It's illegal. So in the end, he didn't do it because the school intervened and the law stopped him from doing it. But we get where he's coming from. I think the thing is that it's not only. It would be nice to say that it's just because of poverty that happens. Yeah. But you see, it isn't, because somehow or other this kind of idea gets baked into the society that a boy is superior. I mean, like, I've had many people contact me and say, and I'm talking about in Canada, in Germany, in America, in England, wealthy families. Even today, they have a girl, you can guarantee someone in their community will say to them, "Oh, I'm really sorry. Maybe if you're blessed, you'll have a boy next time." Guaranteed. And like, there are so many stories like that. So the thing is that it's not just about poverty. There's some other thing going on.
There's another, the psyche,
other aspects to it.
The community. Yeah. I think that's another thing that was hit, because there was that talented young girl that was a brilliant actress, Manisha, and you went to their house to have some lunch, and then you asked the question, would you see your daughter being an actress? I think, and then of course you could see that even if they would be happy to, they had this aspect of community that would hold, and that brought you back to your situation you were talking about. Remember?
Yeah, and I think this is where it's great. So one of the things I love about the film and what I'm very, very hopeful in making the film is that whether you're Indian or whether you're Western or whoever you are when you're watching the film, that you don't, what I call, externalize the issues. Because then it's easy, isn't it? It's easy in life if we go, oh yeah, look at those people over there, they're like this or they're like that. Because then it means I don't have to think about myself, right? It's just somebody else somewhere else is like this. So I wanted to encourage people to internalize the issues. And that's what I actually had to do by making the film. I had to really go on my own journey, and you see it in the thing. But in a way, what that does, I hope, is tells the viewer, how does this affect you in your life, right? And so what I'm about to tell you now, I think if all of the listeners think of it in terms of this, when have you experienced something like this in your own life? And I guarantee you, each of you will have some story about how the community. So what happened with Manisha? It was a village called Kochergaon outside Nasik in Maharashtra. Beautiful place, actually, part of the world. But and these group of girls that were there, they were enabled by a sort of an agency that came in to help, develop the girls. They did what they call a census. So they basically asked all of the girls, what are your aspirations, your hopes, your dreams, your worries? What are you scared about? What are your safety concerns? All of these things. And that was the very first time that for most of those girls that anyone had ever asked them anything about what they felt about anything. Can you imagine? Then they got 35 of them together, and they went and did a deeper study, and they realized that they all shared similar interests, or they had similar concerns or fears, maybe about getting married off when they were before they had a chance to even do a bit of education, and they developed a great camaraderie. And then they started to do dramas for the whole village, and some of them were incredibly talented, and they felt for the first time they weren't invisible anymore. And this one girl, Manisha, like you said, she was genuinely amazing. I mean, really confident and capable and everything. And her parents, for that place, were very progressive. So they were supportive parents. And they said, we're really proud of her. We're actually really proud of how she's doing. And we like that she's even inspiring other girls as well. But then Ravin, who's an actor, the producer for the film, said to the father, well, she really wants to be an actress. Would you let her? And he said, no. Yes. And then they said, well, why not? And yeah, because in the Indian psyche, there's this idea that an actress, maybe it's because of Bollywood, maybe it's because of the old Dave Dassi thing, for the dancing for the king or whatever it is. But there's a sort of a historical idea. He said, the community would think I've sent her to dance. I heard that. Be some kind of a loose woman or something. And then I said to the mom, but would you not feel regret if you don't let her do it, if she really wants to do it? And it broke my heart what the mother said. She said, I already feel regret, but there's nothing I can do. The community will always win. And so, it's so that's my point that I'm asking our listeners to listen to. Oh, 1 second.
Just checking. I can hear.
Sorry,
okay, you're back.
Low,
yeah. Okay. yes. You're on 20.
That's what I wanted the listeners to. That's what I wanted your listeners to think about is, a time where the community, where it was, whether it was your parents or whether it was your partner's parents or whether it was the wider community or even the religious community, where something painful or difficult happened to you because of that pressure of the community or what the community would think. And I think, that's a big one.
I really was taken back by that. There was another statement which I'll bring up, but I was really taken back and it really made me feel for the girl that said it. But I'm a father. I have a little girl, and for me, her having the world is what's pushing me. I want to have her in a world that she can be whatever she wants to be. She wants to be a footballer, so be it. She's quite good at football, by the way. She beats some of the boys. And, and that's the way I want to make sure that as a father, we make this happen. So when I saw your documentary, and I can see where you're coming from, there is, because in our groups, we have people that don't think like that. But then there is people that do think like that. And you can see the psyche. And so I can completely see where you're coming from on this. And And that's the next thing. When I heard about you had the school children, you were after you went to the school. They of course, it was so nice. You're walking in and they flowered you,
Oh, it was
and
beautiful.
it's
So
just
nice. Yeah.
so nice to see. And 1,400, I think it was 1,400 students. Is that correct?
In the Sandy Valley Mooney School in
Yeah.
Vrindavan, there's 1,400 girls. They have capacity actually for 3,000 girls.
Wow.
So they can still take more, but at the moment 1,400. Yeah.
So when you went there, I think there was a few girls that you spoke to.
Yes.
And one thing that really touched me was when one of them said, well, there'll be milk for the boy, nothing for the girl.
Yeah, that's such a, yeah, because you know what, the question I asked her that she gave the answer to was, this is my point. So let's just say if we wanted to be idealistic or simplified a little bit, we say, oh, it's only because of poverty. That's the only reason there's any prejudice against the girls. There's not enough money to send them both to school, so I'll send the boy and not the girl.
Yeah.
But let's just say even if it began like that, but over time, it gets baked in as a belief that the boys more. So, and I said to the girls, I said, why do the boys behave the way they do? Why do they think that the girls are less? And she said, because when there's milk, the mother will give it to the boy, but not to the girl. When there's medicine, like if they're ill, they'll give it preference to the boy. And so over time, the girl feels, well, I mustn't be important or valuable because I'm not getting anything. And the boy thinks every single sign he's getting is saying, I am more important, and the girl is not important. And then over time, if you think about it over generations, that just becomes an accepted fact, you know? And it's also sad because it is also, I guess, starts off being about money maybe because the boy stays in the family, right? And the girl goes out to a new family. And so whatever money, unfortunately, is spent on her is sometimes seen as almost like a waste of money because it goes out of the family, which is sad.
You know, it was really, it's nice the way you put it. There was the other aspect that I think you were on some farmland and you had the girls all crowding around and you're talking, it was nighttime. And then
that was a night school. Yeah, night school.
And then suddenly, I think one of the mothers was trying to get one of the girls because she had some farming duties to do, and it was night, and it was like, and it just, one thing that came to me is that, when suddenly there isn't, when you can't, when you have your, should we say, the basic needs met, we can think higher than that. We don't think of survival mode. Do you feel that they're in that survival mode and that's why they're acting like this?
Totally, yeah. It's a mixture of things. And we would also. I can't remember. Somebody said it to me when I was having a conversation like this. There's some quote where poverty brings out the worst in us because we get scared, we get fearful, we get defensive, we get survivalist. Unfortunately, But also, it's everybody. We like to believe that everyone is doing the best they can given their circumstances, right? So, everyone's working with the tools they've got, so there's a certain environment there, there's a certain set of beliefs, there's a certain sort of culture and accepted norms. And there's also the need to work. And I get that. And it's easy for me in a privileged position from, going from somewhere else to talk about this. I'm not in any way suggesting that they suddenly chase after, iPhones and all, that's going to be the solution to it. But see, this is an interesting thing that sometimes, especially in our spiritual circles, people think we have a very dreamy idea about, farming and all of that. I mean, the thing is that education, the way I see it, is not just about academics. It's not just about earning more money or chasing and having a job and all of those things. That's one aspect of education. But the most important thing I think of education is that it gives the individual a sense of confidence in their own voice, a sense of an awareness of the world, a sense of when they can say no to things, a sense of being able to participate in conversations in their family, in their community, and be able to have give their views on things. And what you would often hear is that, and it's a self-perpetuating thing, if girls are not educated, then no one will ever ask them their opinion. And if they try and give their opinion, it will turn around and say, well, what would you know? Anyway, you're not even educated. So it's a very, it's
just
a tricky.
catch. Yeah, it's a catch-22 in the way it works. And I just want to put out there to the audience, if you have any questions, thank you for those that did provide the questions earlier. It's nice that we put it out and people get back. So thank you. And I'm seeing a lot of positivity coming about the video. The documentary that you've done already. So check it out. road2vrindavan.com. Go there, check it. Honestly, it was, for me, it was so nice to see. And in a way, it's good to self-reflect. It's good to see, when we're watching this, don't see it as an Indian body person. Don't see it as somebody that's external. Just see it as a humanist. See it as a person that's seeing, another human's, dilemmas. How would you feel if you were in that situation? Because, hey, when we come out, we can't choose if we're going to be a boy or a girl. We're just whatever we're going to be.
Exactly.
So why don't we have that type of thing to, try to be positive about whoever? And there was another thing that came up. There was a saying that when somebody has a girl, it's like a sorry state. There was a name given.
Yeah, that was so heartbreaking. Yeah. So that was Sanjana at the night school. She said this was in Rajasthan. So in Rajasthan, she said the average Rajasthan has the highest number of girls getting married between 10 and 14, and she said that it's common that when they have a girl, there was two names. One was Dapu, and the other one was Mafi. So one means sorry, and then the other one is enough. In other words, enough. We don't want any more girls. But the thing is, they don't just say that word at the time. That's the name they give the girl. So that's her name for her whole life. Can you imagine nowadays in the West, if we heard even an inkling from our parents that they were upset when we were born as a boy or a girl, we'd be devastated. But imagine your name, your actual name that you called every day is the thing to remind you that you aren't really wanted.
No, it's that psychological. And I'm getting some VK Sharma is saying here, in India, girls were empowered since ages. In this country, ladies are having equal rights as per constitution, I think, and having voting rights since independence. Even in US, this came a lot later. But arbitration is because of economic situation, traditions that are apart from education. So it's not just the education. This is another thing that came up on the documentary when you speak to one lady. I think you went to America, and they said it's like you're by giving them education is not the solution only, because you're dropping them in this ocean where the mindset is still not. So so it's not empowerment through education. It's
well, it is, but it's not on its own. So there's a Western idea about lots of things, not just about this. That we've come across the solution. All you have to do is educate girls, and then everything will change. So I spoke to Shika Uberoi, who was India's #1 professional tennis player. And she said to me that you can empower someone into isolation. And she actually explained it in her own story as well, because she's a tennis player and she's very athletic. Lots of people will criticize her, oh, you're not ladylike and this and that. So the point of it all is that these rigid, dogmatic ideas of what exactly a girl should be like or a boy should be like. And if you're not like that, it's almost like, when they're picking the vegetables, they just toss you to one side. But it's just not real life. It's just not practical. It's not how it is. So to our last guest's comment there as well, what I would humbly request is that, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, not as a criticism, stop thinking about it in terms of India or here or there or comparing. It's not a football league. It's about looking at the issues for what they are, wherever they are. There are tons of problems in this country as well, exactly the same.
Yeah.
There's discrimination against women in every country of the world in so many different ways. It might be different. So let's not get hung up on about whether it's better in this country or that country or the other country. And let's just think about trying to make it better for everybody wherever they are.
You're just on that point as well. Like, of course, there was recently, even in the UK, ASDA, for equal pay rights, it was one that, the ladies were getting paid less than the gents for a certain role. And that's been going. And even you see it in the working environment. Equality is not there. So it's a world issue. But in some places, it seems to be highlighted much more prominently, would you say, Rav, from what you've seen?
Perhaps. I think what it is that it's very dangerous when it's baked into. It's particularly dangerous when it's baked into what we call tradition or culture, because people then think they can't challenge it. They think that it's untouchable. You can't question it. It's godly. It's the way it should be. And I think then it becomes incredibly dangerous, because it's not just so it's almost like people don't want to acknowledge it in the first place, and then change it. So, for example, what that tennis player was saying, Shika Uberoy, she said, if you take a girl from a rural village and you, let's say, educate her, and you open up her mind and her ideas and her hopes for what might be possible for her life, but you haven't changed the environment around her, you haven't helped the fathers and the uncles and the aunties and the brothers to develop their own mindsets, to even accommodate the idea about could this be possible? Could we allow a girl to stretch her wings a bit wider? Then actually she's in a worse position, because now she has a feeling of what could be possible, but the environment around her is not allowing her. So this is where it is essential that the whole community, including the men and the boys, are helped, not blamed, but helped to change their mindset. It's an education for all of us. It's not like, I don't mean education going to school. That's why we have, whether we have a spiritual path or we have personal development or whatever it is, where we realize that I don't have all the answers. I'm not perfect. I'm a work in progress. I can get better. I can improve myself. I can become more kind, loving, compassionate. And we have to look at also, if what we're holding on to isn't those things, kind, loving, compassionate, supportive, then what is it? And why are you holding on to it? Like, why would anybody want to be anything other than those things? And that's the thing.
Really, one thing, this documentary, I say film, documentary, it seemed to have the aspect of the two. And one thing I would say is watch it. Just seriously watch it. It's just because, it's really nice how, Rav, you've gone out there and you've highlighted what you felt. I think Tina said something, which really it was so nice to see Tina in here as well, and she giving her thoughts, especially about and I'm not giving it all away, everyone. I'm enticing you to watch this. This is such a really, from start to finish, you will be glued. So like she mentioned that, you as an individual used to, this aspect of black and white, trying to see, and then suddenly now it's like you're exploring that gray area. It's like, oh my God. And I thought that was quite deep.
Yeah, I think so, because I don't know if anyone can relate, but again, what I would really encourage people to do when we're talking about these things, think about how it relates to you. So when I was a young man, which is typical of a young man, but especially if you take up a spiritual path, we want it to be black and white. Yes. Then it's easy, isn't it? First of all, then I can feel like I have the answers. I know I'm therefore better than someone else because I know and they don't know, or all of this stuff, black and white, good and bad, in and out, right and wrong. We love that stuff. It's what they call binary, because our brain loves it. It's simple, but it's also kind of lazy as well. And you have to be very careful that it doesn't make you arrogant and insensitive to. So like, this is the thing, we can talk about stuff in theory, but you ultimately always have to look at how it plays out in practice. So it's like a company could say, oh, well, we have a policy for that. You could go, well, you can have a policy as much as you like, but there's still bullying going on in your company. So do you know what I mean? It's not just about pointing out the thing on the wall with the writing. It's how is it actually being lived in practice? And that's what we have to have the conversation there. And so for me, yes, I was, and I suppose that is my tendency to be a bit like that. But this documentary has been very transformational for me, because it helped me to genuinely start to try and see the issues, not from what I think about it, but from their perspective, put myself in their shoes.
Really nicely. And I can see P. Mita on Insta. She says, I think spiritual education in schools is so important. The Devi is a powerful force, and female power is much more potent than that of their male counterpart, she says. Durga, Lakshmi, Kali, and Saraswati, so giving divine demi goddesses
Davies,
she's mentioned here. So yes, on your
it's a
thoughts
very
on
good
that.
point. Thank you for that point. I think it's a very good point, and I have a really interesting point for people to consider on this. And it's often mentioned about, oh well, in our culture we couldn't be hard on women because we have these Davies, and that's true in up to a point. But what it's saying is that, and it's not just, this is not just unique to India. This is the same here in the UK too. It's saying, yeah, we'll respect you as women if you're perfect.
Yes.
If you're perfect and you live up to all of the things that we think you should be, then we'll respect you. But if you're human and you're just a normal woman and you know you might make mistakes and whatever else, then it's all up for grabs. We can rip you apart in the press, in the opinions and whatever, and it's fine. So this is a very dangerous thing to sort of. It's wonderful that we have the feminine aspects represented in the demigods, but actually. We have to be able to recognize and respect and honor and appreciate and value femininity in all its aspects, you know, and in its human aspects too, you know, where it may not always come across as perfect according to what you think, you know, and that's when we really get tested. So unfortunately, you know, sometimes there are the two things: either a woman is a goddess or she's, I hate to say it, like a whore. You know, she's either one or the other. But what about everybody in the middle? You know?
No, really good. And that's something everybody has to think about. And you know, you bring that out in the documentary as well. So now let's come in on to now reflections, Ravi. You know, this by the way, for those that don't know, this didn't just come about. You know, we talked about the tuk-tuk challenge. It wasn't okay. The tuk-tuk challenge was finished, and hey, Ravi got down and started to make this. This took 4 years in the making. It's not. It hasn't been, you know, and you yourself have invested emotionally, physically, financially into this to really make a difference, which I really commend you for, Ravi. And just, you know, what was your realizations? You know, 4 years in the making, and then now it's out. What was the realizations through this process?
Well, even though I'm a filmmaker, making such a huge film has been a massive learning curve, because also we were doing it on a tiny team. So it's been normally, you know, when you look at the credits on the end of films, I always used to wonder, how come there's so many names? Like, what do they all do? But actually, now I know.
Ravi.
Well, I mean, there was lots of people that helped, but
yes.
the kind of core of it was I was carrying a lot of those roles. But no, there was many people. You'll see on the end of the film,
yes,
so many people who I of course want to appreciate so much, who helped in so many ways. But yeah, just sort of carrying it has been a lot of hard work. But you know what? I found it to be one of the best things I've ever done in my life. You know, not just because it's a film, but because of what it's about. I feel like as a young man, I became a monk, which I think is also one of the other best things I did. It was a wonderful experience. I loved it. It's given me this incredibly deep backdrop to life and understanding about things. You know, it's the first thing it's always there in my life. Like if ever anything is, you know, worrying or anything, you know, immediately it's there. You know, so I'm very blessed that having immersed such a lot of time in spiritual life, that it's kind of part of me now. But at the same time, as a monk, I left it. I don't know if people can kind of imagine. It doesn't really happen so much now, but I left home, and I really left home. Like I probably didn't speak to my parents at times for many years. You know, so my mom, who's a woman in my life, obviously left home, no connections. I have one sister, I have two brothers, so no connections. My friends from before, no connections. So I'm living with a bunch of other young monks. We're traveling around. We're celibate monks, so essentially, I believed at that time I would do that for my whole life. I was absolutely convinced of that. So in one sense, if you think about it, I was completely cut off from the feminine. And because obviously I decided I had this goal that I wanted to pursue, and I just felt that was something I had to do in the pursuit of that. But I can see now that my life since then until now has been a gradual coming back to the middle, which is where I feel I should be, and which is a great place to be, where I don't, the feminine is not something to be denied, to be run away from, to be avoided. It is just a wonderful part of life. You look at it, nature. If you go out, it's everywhere. So the film has really helped me as an individual too to become really grounded and appreciative of all aspects of, let's say, Krishna's, creation, and I feel wonderfully blessed for that. And I think a society that can appreciate women in particular, if they're not, is a better society, a healthier society, a wealthier, a richer society in so many ways, and in the family, in the community, in every aspect.
Just on that, a comment came through. Spiritual lessons strengthens the emotional balance and clarity to give purpose to life. I think the Bhagavad Gita is the best spiritual book in the world to give you that purpose of life. So thank you for sharing, VK Verma. And thank you for sharing your thoughts. So
VK Verma, I just wanted to say yes. I agree. It's a wonderful book. I don't know if it's okay for me to say this. It is a wonderful book, but just having the book or even just reading it is wonderful. But still, the change, in our character has to happen too. And I'm sure you're a wonderful devotee. So I'm not talking to you personally, but I'm just saying that just sort of putting the tag on ourselves is one thing. But if the community, even dare I say, the temple community or the religious community, if we are not living these, and I don't just mean the strictness and the amount of Hare Krishnas or how many books you've read, not that stuff, the personal dealings, the actual the interpersonal dealings, that also is important, that we develop nice dealings like that as well, I think.
No, thank you. And also Tulsi is said on Insta, the academic education needs to be accompanied, like you're talking about this, remember? So she's saying, Tulsi says, the academic education needs to be accompanied with tools to help them navigate the world. There will still be exploitation no matter how high women climb. Absolutely.
100% agree. You know what's fascinating though? Sometimes that's used as an argument to put them back in their box. So the thing is that because we're protecting them, because the world is so big, bad, and horrible and ugly, we'll essentially let's just keep them at home. Now the interesting thing is that what Tulsi says is very true. The world will still be the way it is, but you may as well get on and live your life and allow them to develop themselves. Everybody to develop themselves and so on, and not be so afraid of the world that you just limit someone right down. And unfortunately as well, the statistics show that most sexual abuse, most domestic violence happens in the house. So it's not like it's safe in the house either, necessarily. So the point is we need to move ahead. Certainly we have to be wary of safety and precautions have to be taken for all of us, if we feel like we're in an environment where we might not be safe. But that doesn't mean we need to put our life on hold or sort of just stay indoors while that happens.
And also one thing, definitely in COVID, dare I say the word COVID? I know everyone's heard it so many times. I apologize I mentioned that word. But, right now it's probably heightened even more because of restrictions, depending where you are. And even more reason why we need to look within ourselves to just think about others around us. Think about, it's not get caught up in this world. It's about us and try to work in that way. And, Ravi, coming now closer to concluding here, one thing I really like the tagline of Road to Vrindavan, where you say educating girls is not about women versus men. It's about our past versus our future. So this aspect is like you know, we like that aspect of community that you know, when you went to the house for lunch and she said, you know, it's about the community and she can't change it. It is about our past and what we do in the future, how we do it. And then, and you know, the more waves we make like this, what you've done is what's going to help us, you know. Those little it might be, some people say it's a pebble in the ocean, some people think it's a tsunami that's coming, but whatever it is, it's making those waves to help us move in that future. So what would you like to see, Ravi, from this, you know, you put this effort in, what is you want to see, what's the end game here?
Yeah, there's a sort of a micro and a macro end game, if you like. In very simple terms, on a micro level, is I would like people to watch the film and, as I said, think about how it relates to their own life and have conversations with your family, with your community about it. Honest, heart-to-heart conversations. You know, you may not come up with any answers straight away, but just by connecting and hearing and letting everybody be heard and actually going, wow, you know, I never really knew that you felt like that, or that had happened to you, or, you know, or getting so many messages from people saying, oh, this happened to me, or that happened to me, or when I was growing up it was like this, that. So these are great conversations to have, you know, and maybe from those conversations better understanding can happen, maybe some changes can happen. But on the bigger scale, there's a lot of money which is being spent at the moment on girls' education internationally, and I think that that's a wonderful thing. But I also believe that if we don't work with the community and also boys growing up to be to have a different mindset towards girls, then it will be very hard for that change to happen, and maybe it will even have a backlash. Because the community may feel frightened by that change, and actually with COVID we've seen that, like as you said, around the world. The biggest number of underage marriages has happened in COVID because there's only 15 people allowed at weddings, and so it's very cheap, and then there's nobody watching, so you can just do it. And so unfortunately that's a difficult thing. But there's a saying which everyone will have heard, unfortunately everyone will have heard, because it's so prevalent around the world: boys will be boys. And I've even been with, you know, lovely elderly Indian ladies, and someone will say that and they'll go, oh, and everyone laughs about it. Because it's just kind of part of the society. It's kind of accepted. But the thing is that I heard a great saying recently, which was crossed out, and it said, boys will be how we teach them to be. And I have two boys. You know, you have a daughter, for example. You know, you're going to want the boys that she meets, even if they're just her friends, or if she does, you know, get into a relationship, to be the kind of boys who are going to treat her nicely, look after her, respect her, care for her. And so there's always both, you know. And we say boys will be boys, ho, ho, ho. But who are these girls that they're out there with when we don't want our girls to be doing that? So it's kind of like we have to look at the boys and the girls together. And so I'm hopeful that the film will inspire some of these things, as you say, even if it's just a little bit. But you know, we can all just do what we can.
You know, and thank you so much for today for coming on and sharing, you know, your thoughts, and also helping us to delve a bit more deeper. I you know, and as I said at the start, I congratulate you for this. It is such an achievement, a great milestone. So thank you for sharing and helping others to also reflect in themselves. And Miss Soul Gym, I like that name, Miss Soul Gym. Yes, working out the soul. Keep it going. Reframing. She's put a few things. Hi everyone, looking forward to watching your documentary, Ravinol. She said also, reframing boys will be boys to boys will be how we will teach them to be. Love that. She loves that. So let's have that type of thing. And it's yeah. So Miss Soul Gym is Sonal. Thank you, Sonal, for that. So I just want to say, please watch it. Go to, and I've put a link. I'm going to put the link out again to everybody. So and then also on Insta, I'm going to share it so you have it. But it is, just go to www.roadtovrindavan.com and go on.
So I was going to say, when you go to roadtovrindavan.com, I think on the homepage it says, like, check out the screenings. And when you go to the screenings page, you'll see the one which says UK premiere. It started yesterday. It ends on Monday. And what you'll need to do, just so everyone knows, in case if they're confused, so you'll need to click on that link and you have to register. So you just go on Watch Now, register. You put your email and your name in. You can watch it for free. But if you wish, you can also make a donation, which goes towards the girls' education, which obviously we would encourage you to do if you can. But there's no obligation. And then just enjoy the film. And if you'd like to, then you can let us know what you think afterwards, or let Jagannatha know.
Please do, and we'll put that up, and let's make it a bit of a festival for this to be gone out. And just so everybody knows, you'll get the trailer coming. After you finish watching the trailer, then the actual documentary will start. So watch the trailer, and then it's about 3 and a bit minutes.
It's a bit confusing, actually. Yeah.
I just wanted to point that out.
You'll see me first. Yeah, it's a very good point, Jagannatha, actually. So you'll see me, I'll say a few words. Malala actually says a few words, and then the film will begin. So just stay on the line if you like, and it'll continue on.
Well, thank you. And everybody, final time. Check it out. www.roadtovrindavan.com, and really let's make a change in the world. This is the platform. Let's do that. Let's and I'm sure everybody's really congratulating Ravi right now. Keep up the great. We're looking forward to what you're going to do next. It's one of those things now. You're like thinking, 4 years. Hey, we're going to be looking forward to have a little break. We look forward to your next one. But thank you for your time as well, Ravi, for coming on.
I appreciate you having me on, and thank you to your whole community. I love the way you're doing this regularly. You're getting different people on. You're doing it on so many different platforms. Hats off to you. I know it's not easy, because it puts a lot of work to do this too. So I appreciate you having me on. And even though I can't see everybody out there, I'm sending you best wishes and lots of love and Hare Krishna.
So Hare Krishna, everyone. Take care. And I'll be shared on IGTV probably in the next 15-20 minutes. If you didn't see the whole thing, check it out on Instagram. And let's communicate, let's talk, and let us know your thoughts. Just put a comment underneath, and Ravi and myself will get back to you. So on that basis, thank you, Ravi. Thank you, everybody. And Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.